Greetings and salutations, friends, and I am recording this video a second time because I forgot that I can't record two monitors at the same time, and I was demonstrating a lot of material work over here where you can't see it. It's just been one of those days. Right, so where are we at with this? Well, I've been playing around with the paint tool again. I figured out the best way for me to paint grass on here is to set the paint density strength up to like 65 to 70. Select all the things I actually want to paint. Make sure I have their density, their scale, and their slope angles set properly. Because I didn't realize this until the other day, but you can actually set the slope angles on this stuff. So this grass, if I set the maximum angle to 15, will never paint on the rock slopes or the dry grass areas. It will never paint on there. Whereas the tall grass clumps will, because I've got it set to 45, so they'll paint on these nasty angles here, but they won't paint on the rocks. Nifty, huh? So with a little, manipulation of these figures and all these other handy, useful little tools here, you can actually just select all the things you want to paint and just slap it down. But what I did find was if I put the paint density up to like 75 and use a nice big paint brush, I can just go backwards and forwards and fill in the area that I'm interested in. And I do end up with, you can kind of see it here, some vague stripes where there's been some overlap in the paintbrush. And then what I do is use the erase density and turn it down to where I actually want my foliage density to be. So in this case it was 0.5. So after painting at 0.7, I went back on myself and erased with the same brush, but in the opposite direction. I went, to paint I went like that, and to erase I did that. And when you get down nice and low, it does give you quite a nice uniform effect, as you can see. And you can also see, how the small bright green grass hasn't painted on the dry grass here. I've been playing around with the forests again. Now the forests are all procedurally generated by these, where are we? Woodlands. By these procedural foliage volumes. So these are all, I didn't paint these down because I was having a really hard time putting these down, right? Anytime I made a forest or something like that, it always looked like somebody had deliberately put that tree there. It might just be in my head because I did it and I'm the one looking at it, so I'm thinking, well, this tree has quite obviously been deliberately placed there. But yeah, I went back in and I went through the trees and changed their settings, their distance, their spawn densities, and their all the other stuff, the angles as well, so they sit more upright. And this one's at a bit of a weird angle, but I can live with that. Change their angles and also change the angles that they get denied at. So just like the grass down here in the paint tool, in its parameter settings. Hang on, let's get in here. Foliage, tree spawner. Put it over the right window. Open this up. So again, we have we got aligned to normal where possible. We've got a maximum angle is 3 degrees, so it shouldn't go too far off of upright. It should only ever be at 3 degrees maximum. Random yaw, because you don't want all your trees to be pointing in the same way. Random pitch angle, I don't really want to deal with that. And then of course here's the important one, the ground slope angle. So if you don't want your fluffy tree to be, or rather you don't want your oak tree to be spawned on the side of a cliff, you don't set your maximum angle to 90 degrees, right? Pretty clear. Or if you want your cypresses or your Christmas trees to be spawning on the side of steep slopes, you would turn that up. And if you don't want them on a flat ground, you turn that up so they don't get spawned on flat ground. It's pretty cool. And then of course you've got your collision radiuses and all the rest of that stuff, and then you have your seed steps and you know, your growth rates and all that stuff. I haven't even looked into that stuff. Can grow in shade, maximum age, initial age, overlap priority. No, bye-bye. I'm not going to look at that yet. I'm not even that far into this. I'm still playing with the forest texture. That looks better than it did. Let's hang on. Where are we? Let's look at the forest texture. I played with the alpha rock blend a little bit more. So we taking the alpha. I think it's the alpha channel. RMAH. Oh, height channel. So we're taking the height channel and I'm multiplying it and subtracting a random number, and I'm getting this here. So black obviously is the lowest point and white is the highest point. So I'm getting these here, and I'm outputting those. That's my height output, which goes out into my landscape, which goes into the height blend. Cool, huh? But my current project as far as textures is going is the forest ground, which is a bit of a pain in the neck. I've actually just switched over to using this noise here, and I think I need to make it slightly bigger. Oh, is that bigger or smaller? That's bigger. Okay, we'll try that one. It's save. Now it's going to rebuild all the textures. Brilliant. Thank you. Hit save on that one as well. Please don't rebuild all of those ones. Okay. Brilliant. Now it's going to rebuild the entire thing. Fantastic. Oh, right. So, yeah, the next big one, actually, for me, has been the day-night cycle. Oh, that's been all kinds of fun. Now, a basic day-night cycle is really, really simple, right? It really is. I've got a little sphere here. Right, I mean, let's turn painting off so I don't accidentally paint grass in the wrong place. So I've got this little sphere here. He's a little entity. He doesn't get rendered during the game. And he's got the blueprint attached to him, which is this guy here, which looks alarmingly complex, but this bottom section here is the moon. This top section here is the sun. And what I might actually do at this point is select everything and then deselect it, because I'm weird. I'll just spread them out slightly like that. Right, so this controls the sun movement, right? And to do that, instead of using all kinds of really complicated math, right, to try and track the sun's position in the sky and all the rest of that stuff, I'm just using a graph. Technically, it's a timeline. This is the sun's position in the sky, right? Its height. This is the height or the pitch of the sun in the sky. So at night, imagine this is the horizon, right? And this is the sun above the horizon at noon, and the sun below the horizon at 8 o'clock in the evening. And then at, what's this? At 6 o'clock at night and 7 o'clock in the morning, it's a bit weird, the sun hits the horizon. And then I've got another one here which turns the sun on and off. I've got the brightness. Obviously the yaw is the sun passing in a straight line across the landscape, right? You know, yaw, pitch, roll, all that stuff. And then brightness. I've got another one set up for brightness. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, the sun comes on. The sun, at 6 a.m. the sun turns on, and the value becomes 3.2. And then when it's below the horizon, the value is 0.01. Now, I did this because the trees on my landscape were being illuminated from under the ground. As the sun was passing below the horizon and went around the landscape underneath, it was illuminating the trees from below. And I looked at a couple of different possible solutions, and the cheapest solution, right, was simply just to turn the sun off once it went below the horizon. And I've got the same thing for the moon. The lunar movement is tracked with a timeline. I could have put it on the same timeline as the sun, but as you and I both know, the sun and the moon do not orbit the Earth, or rather the Earth orbits the sun at a different rate that the moon orbits the Earth. Ha! See, I can do words. Using, oh hi puppy, and using decimals, we know that the moon's orbit is 24.85 every day, right? Right. Just take my word for it. It's true. It's 24.85. It's okay. So that's that. So that controls the sun and the moon, right? Here we go. It's very sudden sunrise because obviously I've got my my time turned up. Because, you know, for testing reasons, you don't want to be sitting here for 20 minutes waiting for the sunrise. So there's the sun, and there's the moon. Now the sun uses the BP sky sphere. The sun is actually drawn on the sky sphere. So the sun is drawn on the sky sphere, but the moon is not. Because the moon has a texture, and getting textures on the sky sphere is a nightmare. It really is a real pain in the neck. So to do that, what I ended up doing was creating that guy. This is moon control. Right? This is just a simple sphere stuck to the ground. Well, it's not actually stuck to the ground. Its location is exactly the same as the center of the sky sphere. Right? And then attached to that is the sphere with the moon texture painted on it. Right? It's movable. It's just a dummy object. It just sits there. Hi. And it's just attached to this guy. And this guy does all the work. The simple sum blueprint updates the rotation for this. And because the moon sphere is attached to that, it gets dragged around the sky. Simple. You won't believe how long it took me to think that up. Of course, that brought in a new issue. The moon orbits inside the clouds. I don't know if you noticed that. Let me hit play again. And here's the moon. Look at the moon on the inside of the cloud textures. See that cloud texture? It should go behind it. But no. The moon is orbiting the Earth closer than the clouds. Minor issue, which I'm working on. And then lastly, my last thing actually has been dealing with clouds. Oh my giddy aunt, clouds. What a pain in the neck they are. There are several different methods by which you can create clouds, right? None of them involve the sky sphere, because let's face it, the sky sphere for cloud rendering is poo. They look really nice, right? They do. Honestly, they don't look too terrible. There is one small problem. That. They just go around in circles. So when you're looking over there, they kind of look like they're blowing from west to east, right? And when you turn around, they're blowing from east to west. So I wanted to get rid of them. So I have. Right? So, no more clouds. Clouds are gone. Right? So trying to come up with various different solutions, I tried lots of different things, right? I tried the very complex volumetric cloud systems, which are born of particles. They look very nice. They do. They look very, very nice. The problem is they're also very, very expensive. And if you have too many of them floating across the sky, it really does damage the game. You know, it does slow things down a lot. They look very, very nice, but they're very impractical, I guess is the correct term. And then I tried painting noise textures onto a plane, And that works. They look okay. The problem is that it's flat. When I was playing with the idea, I did it with a flat plane. What I need to do with a convex plane. If it's a convex plane, I need to put it on a cylinder. Basically, I need to put it on a cylinder, or maybe on a sphere, but turn the sphere sideways so they are projecting up and over your head and forwards instead of around. You know what? There must be a way of doing that with the sky sphere. Ooh, you know what? I think the sky sphere is going to need. Man, I'm going to need to investigate the sky sphere because I want my stars to move as well. It's entirely possible that the sky sphere is in fact going to get completely destroyed and replaced with my own creation. Oh God, what a horrible idea. Anyway, so doing it with the flat plane with a texture on it kind of sort of works. The problem is to make that work, I was using a translucent material, and as you may know, a translucent material won't cast a shadow. Bit of a bummer. But you can get around that by using a masked texture above it. You just duplicate the whole thing and you just switch the material out to masked. The problem with that is the masked texture is either on or off. There's no, there's no other way about it. So you either have these dirty, great, nasty clouds which block all possible light, or no shadows at all. And then I came up with this, which is sort of working. It needs a little bit of tweaking, but it's not bad. I think if I combine this with my other idea of doing either the sphere or doing the cylinder or redoing the sphere and having flat textures passing over it, but on the inside of the moon. So the moon is on the outside of the cloud layer. Great idea. I think it might work, but these clouds are actually pretty simple. Where are they? That's a good question. Under environment. Oh, fireflies too. Yeah. Well, you know what? That's really easy. Just look it up on YouTube. Somebody's done a really cool video, but I made a couple of minor adjustments to them, so they look a little bit more like actual fireflies now. There you go. Now imagine like a very dim blue hue as the moon is transitioning across the sky, and these going on, and some sound effects. Yeah, baby, that's going to look really nice. That's going to be quite nice. Anyway, then the clouds, right? Oh, you know what? If you are going to play around with the sky sphere, if you're going to edit the blueprint on this thing, I absolutely recommend you copy the sky sphere in its entity, in its entirety, out of the engine, because any changes you make to the sky sphere up here by hitting this blueprint edit here is going to affect every project you have associated with that version of your Unreal Engine, right? So the best thing to do is just to copy it out and bring it into your project. See, this is the one from the engine that I copied out, renamed, and then of course you actually have to go in and change all the associations inside. So the sky sphere mesh has also been modified and changed and blah blah blah. So make sure you update all the references as well, otherwise you may inadvertently make changes to the engine instead of your project. So yeah, keep that in mind. See, even the stars I've renamed and updated. Anyway, my clouds, very simple actually. Cloud texture. Hi. Very simple cloud texture that I ripped off, downloaded from Google. I'm not quite sure who created it, but whoever it was, thank you. For the moment, I'm using it. It's probably going to get updated. Then it's dragged into this material here. And to get it to work, I have to use opacity. And because I don't want like the solid cloud, I want that kind of translucency, I've had to adjust the opacity down. And of course, when you adjust the opacity down, you're killing the amount of base color available. So if I turn the emissive off and let it update, there you go. Now it looks very dull and like lifeless and ghostly, and yeah, no, it's not a thing. So I have to put the emissive color in that channel. And the only problem with doing that is if you don't manipulate that, you end up with clouds that glow at night. Not a good thing. That's where this comes in. That guy is this. Let me show you this guy. Under materials, a material parameter collection, right? That's what that is. So we open that up, and that's all it is. It's just a list, right? You don't have to reference the material itself, but what we've got here is we've got a default value of 1. The parameter name is cloud color. All I do to use that is just drag it into here. Blip. Done. And then I just hook it to whatever it is I want. And it becomes a parameter. But it's a parameter that is visible to the game, to the Unreal Engine. It's not one that you manipulate over here like you would an instanced texture. This is something you can actually get to from another blueprint. Right? Keep that in mind. Down here, now you saw those clouds change from black to fluffy white as the sun came up and went down, right? Now that's the emissive color being manipulated, because again, if you don't change the emissive color when the sun goes down, the clouds are going to remain bright white and glowy even though it's dark and they are not receiving any light. And the last thing you want is these clouds floating around in the sky above your head, bright as anything, in the middle of the night. So what I've done is I've set this up and I've got it attached to the sun pitch, just to give it a little bit of transition effect. I've got a multiplier. Then I'm inverting it because, remember, the sun movement is inverted. When it's a positive value, it's below the horizon, and when it's a negative value, it's above the horizon. So we have to invert that number. So we invert the number, I chuck it in a clamp. Yep, I chuck it in a clamp. When it comes out of the clamp, I chuck it in another clamp. And there's a reason for that, because I have to do the same thing with the lunar one. So I'm setting it up now so I can add the lunar input later. Give it another clamp, so this is the clamp that's going to be feeding into the parameter. And then all we do is we do the set scalar parameter value. And then under here we select the collection that we're interested in, which is my M2, Cloud M2 collection, right? And then that gives me access to the parameter name, which is the cloud color. And then I just set the parameter value. And that is attached to that. So this blueprint updates the parameter that I'm feeding into the multiplier on this material. Which means that at night I have dark clouds, or dark-ish, since I changed the value to 0.002, so they are still slightly illuminated. So at night we have these nice dark clouds, and they stay dark until the sun hits them. Like that. So the sun's now coming up over the horizon, the sun hits them, illuminates them, and bingo. They're nice, fluffy, and white. And then when the sun goes down, they'll go back to that horrible dark grey color. And the benefit of that is, if or when I get to the point of doing a weather system, I already have that parameter exposed, so I can manipulate that again later on to create storm clouds just by toning down the emissive color during the day. Nifty, huh? Anyway, so that's as far as I've gotten. Where's the moon gone? Uh-oh, I think I broke it. Oh no, okay, the moon sets before the sun, I think. Doesn't it? Anyway, yes, so that's what I've been working on for the last little bit, on and off, for the last couple of weeks, I guess. The cloud textures need to be adjusted. Again, most of this is really more conceptual at the moment, just to get it functioning and working, and then I can go back and improve upon it when I get further down the road. But I think at the moment things are progressing well. The next thing I need to do is get the clouds to disperse across the sky a bit more. Excuse me. Get the clouds to disperse across the sky a bit more. Set up a figure out. I don't really want a time to live. What I want is a kill. Oh, I think I can actually set up a volume that will kill. Yeah, I think I can set up a volume that will kill the sprites generated by the particle emitter. Anyway, yeah, that's about it for now, I think. We'll see you again when I've got some more information. But if you've got any questions, you want me to go over anything that I've done here in any more detail, yeah, let me know, and I'll help you out as much as I can and explain what I did. So until the next update, I will see you anon.